Amazing rescue, little girl and her K9 exposed the hidden danger of a police officer and newborn. Lily raced through the sun-drenched playground, Max trotting eagerly alongside her. The laughter of friends filled the air, blending seamlessly with the familiar sights and sounds of her small town. But on that fateful afternoon, the playful innocence of their adventures came crashing down. A local police officer, usually a beacon of safety for her, stood caught in an uncharacteristically tense exchange with a young mother. Cradled in the mother's arms was a newborn, swaddled tightly yet squirming, as if sensing the whirlwind of emotions swirling around them. Something was off. Lily felt a prickly unease in her chest. She loved this community, its familiarity, and the warmth of neighborly smiles. But now, as she observed from behind a cluster of bushes, a chill snaked down her spine. She had always thought heroes wore badges. Was this officer the one who waved at her from his cruiser really someone she could trust? Driven by her innocent curiosity and a fierce determination for justice, Lily motioned for Max to follow her. He tilted his head, sensing her urgency, and together they crept closer, hiding just out of sight. With each passing moment, her heart pounded lightly beneath her t-shirt, drumming an erratic rhythm. The mother's eyes, wide with fear, seemed to plead for help that Lily felt compelled to offer, even if she didn't yet understand why. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Max nudged her, as if urging her to take action. But doubt gnawed at her. Shouldn't she trust the officer? He always played the role of protector, but the way he stood, his jaw tight and fists clenched, suggested he was hiding something. Lily could hear her parents' voices in her head, "Trust the good people, Lily." But what if that trust was misplaced? A swarm of what-ifs clouded her mind. The officer's badge glimmered in the afternoon sun, a symbol of honor, but now seemed like a mask hiding darker truths. As days passed, Lily's observations grew. Whispered conversations snowballed into tangled threads of deceit that ensnared her thoughts. Each evening, she replayed the mother's distressing face and the officer's stony demeanor. Should she become a champion of truth, risking innocence? The pressure mounted, tightening around her like a noose. Silent threats crept into her mind, filling her with dread. What if they found out she was snooping? But what if she did nothing? Courage and fear danced within her, each unsteady step toward the truth demanding more of her. A sudden confrontation with the officer loomed closer, casting shadows over her heart. Was this where innocence met its reckoning? Would she stand up and risk everything she held dear? And as the situation unfolded, a new fear seized her. What if silence cost an innocent life? Just when she thought she could unveil the truth, a dark figure approached, a menacing reminder that truth had its price. In that moment, the stakes grew perilously high. Would she leap into the fray, or retreat to the safety of childhood, haunted by the shadows of uncertainty? The air thickened with tension, leaving her heartbeat echoing like thunder. Lily felt her breath catch as the figure drew nearer, a heavy cloak of dread settling on her shoulders. Max, ever attuned to her emotions, let out a low growl, the sound reverberating through the air like an omen. This was not just a game, this was reality, and it demanded a response. She had witnessed the fraying threads of trust unravel before her eyes, and with it came a decision that would mark her transition from childhood to a more complex understanding of the world. In that moment of uncertainty, a resolve began to rise within her. It flickered at first, like a candle flickering against the wind, but with each beat of her steadfast heart, that flame grew stronger. She recalled her parents' teachings, their unwavering belief in courage and integrity. Wasn't this the very moment they had prepared her for? She felt an unfamiliar rush of determination surge through her veins, compelling her to act. The unseen figure, more ominous than she had anticipated, drew closer to the officer, an interaction she could no longer ignore. What were they whispering about? Did the darkness hover around them like a tangible force, or was it simply her imagination contorting reality? This was about more than her small fears now. It was about ensuring the safety of that vulnerable newborn and the mother who desperately needed help. Max sensed her readiness and nudged her further into motion. Each step felt weighed down by gravity as she slinked cautiously closer, her instincts heightened. The voices, barely audible yet rippling with tension, echoed in her ears. "He doesn't care about you," the figure said with a low chuckle, the intimidating timbre sending shivers through her spine. The officer's jaw clenched harder as he shifted uneasily, a motion that didn't go unnoticed by Lily. "What do I have to do?" she whispered to Max, who looked up at her with knowing eyes. He was her companion, her anchor. Surely he would help her find her own ground. Navigating the emotions roiling within her, she hesitated. What if her revelation led to repercussions for both herself and the mother? Yet, the thought of standing by and allowing injustice to prevail was unbearable. Courage would require action, and she could no longer remain a passive observer. Eagerly, she searched her memory for any resources that could aid her, any strategies from her ever-expanding knowledge of the world around her. Lily knew she needed an ally, someone she could trust completely, her best friend Emily. They had conjured wild adventures in their backyard, shared secrets late into the night, and created an innate bond that was unbreakable. She could confide in Emily, share her discoveries, and together they could find a way to take action that was both informed and safe. The idea of bringing her friend into this chaos lightened her spirit. Maybe they could unite in their courage. But just then, the figure turned sharply, locking eyes with her. She froze, heart racing. For an instant, she believed she might be caught. But to her surprise, recognition flickered in the figure's gaze. Was it a threat or a warning? Was the battle for justice about to unfold, or was she on the precipice of something much darker? She felt the air change, heavy with implications. The stakes escalated, pressing down on her with the weight of uncertainty and danger. In that electric moment, the path ahead grew clearer yet more daunting. She had to confront this tension before it unraveled her entire world. Lily could no longer turn back. The time had come to face everything she feared, and as she prepared herself for the confrontation, she clutched her phone tightly, her heart racing with the thrill of impending discovery. Would she expose the truth, or would it engulf her instead, revealing the realities of her own vulnerability? With determination burning in her chest, she inched closer to the fray. In her mind, the question echoed ominously: could bravery truly triumph in the face of such danger, or would she become tangled in the web of deception? As the confrontation approached, shadows loomed, and her heart pounded in rhythm with a fate that was about to unfold. Lily's world narrowed, the chaotic colors of the park blurring into the looming tension of the escalating confrontation. The realization that she was staring down the complexity of true courage shook her down to her very core. The figure, still obscured in shadow, represented not just an unknown threat, but the weight of her choices stretching out before her like a tightrope strung over a vast abyss. The officer's rigid posture signaled one thing: he felt cornered, trapped between duty and fear. Would he side with the figure or act on behalf of the innocent? Lily's heart raced, not just out of fear, but from the gnawing urgency to clarify this predicament. Every moment spent racked with indecision gnawed at her resolve. This was her chance to step from the shadows of childhood into a world where moral clarity was as vital as breathing. Max nudged her again, this time a reassuring presence as her eyes flitted to the officer. Perhaps he needed her help just as much as the mother and child involved. She fumbled for her phone, her breath coming unsteadily. What can I do? She thought, fleeting images of misconceived bravery passing through her mind, heroic figures charging headlong into danger. Yet the best course wasn't always grandiose displays. Sometimes, small, deliberate actions made the largest impacts. In that instant, she remembered her lessons observing, analyzing, and planning. Her parents had instilled in her a strong sense of strategy in tumultuous moments. What if she discreetly recorded the interaction? Maybe evidence could tip the scales in favor of justice. Her fingers trembled as she navigated through the app settings, mounting the courage to act decisively rather than impulsively. A subtle shift in the air sent a shiver through her. She sensed both the escalation of the figure's confrontation and, perhaps more pressingly, that she was standing upon the precipice of revealing hidden truths. She had always been adept at noticing nuances, mimicking her parents' investigative techniques in the safety of her home, but this fieldwork felt different. There was an inherent danger lurking beyond the known. As she steadied her breathing, she flipped her phone to record on the sly. With the camera focused on the pair, she maintained a clear view of the ominous figure. Perhaps this evidence would help clear the veil of dishonesty, exposing the truth until it unraveled like threads of a fraying tapestry. In her mind, she crossed her fingers tightly as if willing fate to align. Moments stretched into what felt like an eternity when suddenly, the figure leaned dangerously close to the officer, their voices audible yet laced with a menacing undertone. "You really don't want to get involved, do you?" In that chilling moment, Lily felt the weight of the juxtaposition between her small self and the vast universe of consequence towering around her. Could she truly turn the tide of intimidation? She felt vulnerable, yet emboldened. Every doubt, every worry, transformed into a weapon charged with purpose, pushing her to act. Just then, as if on cue, an unexpected witness, a toddler playing on the nearby swing, broke the spell of silence with laughter, echoing through the tension-filled air. There it was, innocence, and with it, the unspeakable strength of maternal instinct. Inextricably linked to what was at stake, Lily's resolve reignited. This was about unveiling a battle for more than just her fears, it was about justice and protecting those who could not protect themselves. With renewed clarity, she held the phone steady as she summoned a whisper more melodic than the child's laughter. "Hey!" she called, projecting her voice into the electric atmosphere. Every drop of courage bolstered her spirit. Would the figures turn to confront her? Would her actions catalyze change, or would they drown her in the inevitable storm of consequences? As the figure's head snapped towards her, surprise flashing across their expression, she stood her ground, fortified by conviction and the urgency of the moment. This was it, her moment to confront every doubt that had ever lingered in her mind and every hesitation that had held her back. The battle between silence and truth hinged on her next choices. Would she take the plunge, or would she falter under the gravity of fear? As the figure moved menacingly closer, Lily's heart pounded in an overture of imminent confrontation, the ultimate question presenting itself with crystal clarity. Would she become the catalyst for justice or simply another observer in a world desperate for change? The figure hesitated, their shadow stretching against the afternoon sun, momentarily caught off guard by Lily's unexpected call. For just a heartbeat, the tension in the air shifted, and curiosity flickered across their face. That was all the window Lily needed. Fueled by a surge of adrenaline, she steadied herself and took a step forward, the phone now her lifeline to truth. "Leave them alone." Her voice trembled but was infused with a fierce determination. Each syllable dripped with an urgency that made the officer's eyes dart between her and the figure. She knew this challenge was more than a confrontation, it was the decisive moment wherein she could reclaim her narrative, a narrative often dictated by others. As the words poured out, she felt an overwhelming tide of fear seep into her confidence. What if the figure turned violent? Despite her trepidation, she had chosen to stand up, and that single choice began a slow metamorphosis within her. She was no longer an invisible child in the park, instead, she was emerging as an agent of justice, however unsteady her footing might have been. "Stop talking to him like that," she pressed, her voice louder now, fortified by the knowledge that she wasn't alone. Max stood resolutely at her side, his presence an embodiment of loyalty. Even in the shadows, she could feel the tug of the life she once knew, clashing with the life she wanted to create for herself. Recognizing her own growth, she realized she was no longer afraid of being seen, nor of stepping forward. The figure's facade of calm cracked slightly, and they took a half-step back. But they quickly reasserted themselves, a smirk breaking across their face. "And what exactly are you going to do about it?" They scoffed, their voice low and mocking. Yet that response, rather than deterring her, only ignited a deeper fire within. This was more than just a simple act of defiance, it was a declaration of her autonomy. Lily was ready to claim her space in this chaotic tableau. Before her heart could beat wildly from both fear and anticipation, the officer shifted, visibly unnerved as he caught the weight of her gaze. In that split second of mutual recognition, something shifted. Would he align with the dangerous figure, or could he break from expectation? Officer Lily summoned all the authority she could muster. "You need to help. They're not who they say they are." The officer's brow furrowed, doubt marring his expression. She realized it was a seed of fear she needed to plant, nudging the man towards the possibility of resistance against intimidation. The figure tightened their jaw, their posture falling into an aggressive pose as they realized their control was slipping. "You think you know the truth?" They hissed, advancing again, but this time they were met with the sharpness of resolve emanating from Lily. The strength radiating from her feet to her fingertips astonished her. Could she really change the outcome? In that moment, everything around her faded: the laughter of the toddler, the rustling leaves, the weight of the world beyond this confrontation. It was now or never, and she knew that retreat was no longer an option. Each second passed like grains of sand slipping through an hourglass, yet the atmosphere thickened, charged with the gravity of impending decisions. Whatever happens next is a result of real choices, she thought, a flicker of insight unlocking within her. I want to cower back into silence. I can't. Her breath steadied, and she trained the camera on the figure again, this time steeling herself to capture what would unfold. Every click of her heart drummed with clarity, a defining moment both exhilarating and fear-inducing, mighty and deeply personal. Just as the figure lunged forward, an escalation cascading over the scene, another voice pierced the tension: "Lily." Lily turned, a mixture of surprise and apprehension flooding through her as she processed the booming sound. Who was there? What would they bring to her moment of bravery? The stage that she had carved out had now expanded. It was no longer just her choice standing on the precipice of justice. Who would come to her aid and at what cost? The voice carried an urgency that sliced through the tension of the moment, drawing Lily's attention away from the figure looming in front of her. She squinted against the glare of the sun, seeking the source of the shout, her heart racing not only from the intensity of the confrontation but now also from unexpected hope. "Lily, get back!" Max yelled, his voice a solid anchor amid the chaos. But before she could fully process the warning, she caught sight of a tall figure striding toward them, accompanied by the unmistakable silhouette of a K9. The dog moved with purpose, its muscles rippling beneath its taut fur. The license plate revealed that this was no ordinary civilian, this was Officer Hayes, the kind of person who hailed from the community she had seen protecting others until today. "Stay behind me, buddy," Lily urged, realizing the weight of this moment not only rested on her but now included Max as well. She had fought hard to find her voice, now empowered by the arrival of someone who had authority and the capacity to act decisively. Officer Hayes stopped short, assessing the situation rapidly, his eyes darting between Lily, the figure, and the officer. "What is going on here?" he barked, his voice laced with authority, but just as Lily observed in the officer, she also saw the flicker of doubt in his expression. Was he truly willing to unravel what had been presented to him? "She's in danger," Max interjected, pointing to the menacing presence that stood a few feet away, his voice strained but unwavering. "You have to help her." Lily felt a swell of camaraderie rise within her. It was more than just a feeling of hope, this was collective strength. Powered by this, she glanced at Hayes, focusing her reticence into a steady gaze, hoping to convey her urgency. "Officer Hayes, that person is dangerous. They're trying to intimidate us, but I'm not afraid anymore," she declared, her voice trembling slightly with adrenaline. yet she stood firm. The figure laughed derisively, shaking their head as if to dismiss her words. "You think the dog can save you? You're just a little girl playing a game," they sneered, but their bravado faltered under the unwavering focus of Officer Hayes. "Enough!" he barked, raising a hand to silence the figure. He stepped forward, cautiously placing himself between Lily and the threatening person, the K9 at his side surveying the situation, neck poised, ready for action. It was surprisingly reassuring to see this protective posture. "Tell me who you are and what you're doing here," Hayes demanded, locking eyes with the figure. Lily felt an unexpected thrill at the realization that she had just empowered a decision. This was the moment to lean into her personal growth. She had stepped beyond that invisible girl altogether. "Just passing through," the figure shouted, their bravado cracking as they shifted uneasily, sensing the power dynamic tilting. Lily sensed the string of courage knitting itself tighter within her, binding her to the notion that she was not simply a witness to her own narrative anymore. "Officer, I have evidence," she said hastily, opening her phone's video app, her hands trembling yet resolute. "I recorded the whole thing." The officer's brow furrowed with interest, rivalry flaring in his eyes as he took her phone. This was undeniably a pivotal moment, not just for her, but for those caught in the fringes of injustice. Could this moment culminate in change? In resolution? The figure's demeanor shifted palpably as they realized they were no longer the center of the narrative. They were on the losing side of a gamble that they had thought ensured their victory. As tension coiled tighter, Lily exhaled slowly, ready to embrace the outcome regardless of how it unfolded. She wasn't just fighting for herself anymore. This was a confrontation with shadows that loomed over those who couldn't stand for themselves. But the question thrummed in her mind: what power would they hold against someone determined to dismantle their facade? Just as the scene crackled with potential revelation, the figure emitted a laugh, a dangerous sound steeped in threat. "You think this is over?" they taunted, stepping back with cool deliberation, mouth twisted in a snarl. Somewhere in that veiled threat lay the truth that this confrontation was only the beginning. Lily tightened her grip, readying herself for whatever might unleash next. The stage had shifted, but the stakes were higher than she'd anticipated. And now, standing at the precipice of an uncertain future, a new question spiraled in her mind: what would she uncover about herself amid this unfolding chaos? Officer Hayes stood firm, his hand still raised in a commanding gesture as tension crackled in the air. The figure had begun to retreat, but Lily wasn't ready to relinquish her newfound courage, nor the empowerment that had surged through her moments ago. She could see the officer's uncertainty and realized that she wasn't just a passive observer, she was an integral part of this unfolding drama. "Wait!" Lily called out, her voice steady despite the chaos that surrounded them. The figure turned, surprise flickering across their face. It was an opportunity, a moment where she could solidify her role in this narrative rather than allowing it to be dictated by someone who sought to intimidate. "I recorded everything. The threats, the actions, it's all on my phone. You can't just walk away," she asserted, her heart pounding. The realization that she held the power of evidence intoxicated her, igniting a deeper sense of purpose. The figure's identity was more than an abstract threat, it had become personal. They had tried to maintain control not just over the moment, but over her perception of her own strength. The vulnerability she once felt was eroded, leaving nothing but a resolve she had never known existed. "Max, can you stand by my side?" she asked, barely glancing at him, but sensing his silent urgency. He stepped closer, the solidarity helping to buoy her confidence further. "What do you think you're going to do, kid?" The figure sneered, the bravado returning in short, clipped bursts. Yet, their posture had shifted, betraying an unease that exposed their own vulnerability. "Call it what you want, but I'm not afraid to tell the truth," Lily replied, sharpening her focus on Hayes, who was momentarily distracted, reviewing the video. She sensed the momentum shifting, a current pulling against all the past insecurities she had felt. Skepticism isn't going to get you far, she added, her words directed at the figure, who was now on the defensive. You can't intimidate me. Each phrase was a stepping stone toward asserting herself, reclaiming agency over what had been done to her. Officer Hayes looked up, an air of realization dawning in his eyes. There is something here, he murmured, courage and duty intertwining as he stepped closer to the potential threat with renewed conviction. But doubts slinked into her thoughts. What if this wasn't just one figure? What if this was only the beginning of something larger? Lily had once been governed by fear, gliding through life as a mere observer. Now, the very prospect of being seen and heard felt both exhilarating and dangerous. The figure laughed again, but the laughter felt hollow this time. You really think you can change anything here? You have no idea what's coming. They glanced to the side, as if waiting for something or someone to materialize. Watch me, Lily whispered, the steel of her determination forming an imperative clasping around her heart. She turned and met Hayes' gaze, hoping to convey more than just words. This is not just about physical domination but about standing firm against it. We can expose whatever lies beneath. As the moment seemed to stretch into eternity, her thoughts spiraled to the fact that discovering her inner strength required both courage and confrontation. What would be the costs of this newfound identity? Would it unravel the very fabric of her existence like a frayed sweater, or would it offer her a mantle of power, something she had always wanted but didn't know how to name? In the distance, faint sirens wailed like ominous heralds, each note resonating in her chest like an impending revelation. Just as the air thickened with uncertainty, the figure hurled a final threat. You think this was all there is? This game is far from over. Nothing was resolved, yet everything had changed in that moment, culminating into a web of escalating dramas that promised something deeper and more complex than mere confrontation. The potential repercussions surged through her mind, igniting equal parts excitement and dread. Two worlds were colliding, and she could feel herself teetering at the intersection. What awaited her on the other side? The weight of decisive action loomed like a tidal wave, and she had to ask herself, would she dare to tread further into uncertain waters, no matter the risks? The sirens wailed louder, jarring Lily back into the moment. The figure before her was no longer just a hostile presence, they were an embodiment of everything she had ever feared. Yet, a new current surged within her, a latent energy transforming her apprehensions into a palpable resolve. She took a breath, steeling herself against whatever might come next. Let us stop playing games, Lily challenged, battling the unease that sought to creep back in. For the first time, her voice bore the weight of authority, punctuated by the clarity of purpose. She internalized the truth she had recorded. The threats were tangible evidence, her own lifeline to the truth. Yes, let us, the figure replied, squaring their shoulders. There was something unnerving in their calmness, almost as if they were relishing the confrontation. With a deep breath, she shifted her focus to Officer Hayes, whose expression now mirrored her own determination. Hayes, we need to ensure this doesn't escalate. We have to take control of the situation, she urged, urgency bubbling in her tone. This moment was about more than just her truth, it was about collective responsibility, the steadfastness to stand against intimidation. He nodded in agreement, a flicker of respect sparking in his eyes as he took a step toward the figure. What exactly are you planning? The figure retorted, brow raised. You think your little recording will change anything? Their eyes darted, searching for any indication of weakness, but Lily stood resolute, knowing that the evidence was more than mere pixels on a screen. It was her truth encapsulating the abuse she'd witnessed. Maybe not, but it certainly changes how I'll be perceived moving forward, Lily stated, feeling the ground shift beneath her. The foundations of her past self were cracking, and in the fissures, new possibilities began to take root. What if her voice could truly impact the narrative? What would that mean for her future? Your threats only show your cowardice. If you had real power, you wouldn't need intimidation, she continued, challenging them. Each word felt like a bridge toward growth as she navigated her fear with precise determination. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed through the alley, and the figure flinched, glancing down the street. Lily seized the opportunity, stepping further into the light. We can either address this now together or let the chaos chase us. I choose to confront it. What about you? She demanded. Their expression fluctuated, revealing something profound beneath the mask of bravado. She sensed the quickening pulse of the moment, the tension unraveling as each side calculated its next move. This was about more than personal trials, it was a test of resilience, a challenge that sought to redefine who she was. Officer Hayes stepped closer, the weight of authority aligning with Lily's tenacity. You're right, but we need to move beyond words. We'll take your evidence and bring this to light, he affirmed, his voice steady as he prepared both for confrontation and resolution. In that instant, empowered by both her revelation and the officer's declaration, she resolved to make this shift permanent. There was no turning back now. This meant standing firm in her newfound strength, even if the risks seemed overwhelming. What else is out there? She wondered, her mind racing. Would this open doors to challenges she had only fantasized about tackling? The figure's final threat hung in the air like a harbinger, whispering of future confrontations lurking just beyond the horizon. As the puppet strings of fear slowly fell away, she felt the exhilaration of possibility washing over her, a desire not just to witness but to act, to stand tall against anyone who sought to belittle her or anyone else for that matter. Her path was rife with uncertainties, but a new light beckoned her forward. A cloud of doubt lingered, nagging at the edges of her mind. Could she truly sustain this momentum as the stakes escalated? The unanswered questions pulled at her relentlessly, yet she found resolve in the notion that she had already disentangled herself from the past. And then it struck her, if she dared to continue, what awaited her on the horizon? The burgeoning conflict was not just about physical threats, it was about her evolution unfolding under scrutiny. I'm not afraid to uncover the truth, she whispered to herself, fire igniting her determined spirit. The journey was just beginning, and as she scanned the path ahead, she felt an urge to confront whatever awaited her. What would she discover as the truth unspooled, one thread at a time? Each choice, now sharpened by courage, could either build her newfound identity or unravel it completely. A reckoning was brewing, and in the depths of her resolve, she braced herself for what awaited, a confrontation that would test everything she had become. The atmosphere around Lily crackled with uncertainty, but within her blossomed an undeniable courage. As she huddled with Officer Hayes, a compelling sense of unity forged in that moment surged between them. The looming figure may have envisioned themselves as the puppet master, but Lily was no longer tethered by the strings of fear. The revelation lit a fire inside her, illuminating the path toward her true self. With every flicker of doubt that crossed her mind, she pushed it aside. The stakes were high, and she was more resolved than ever to uncover the truth. What if, beneath the hostility of the figure before her, lay cracks in their facade that could lead to their undoing? What if she could push through the disguise and reveal what lay beneath? Questions rolled through her mind like thunder, fueling her determination. "Let us get this started," she said, her voice steadier than she felt. The words were not just a challenge to the figure but a mantra meant for herself, an affirmation of the transformation she was undergoing. As the figure shifted, an unsettling smile played at the corners of their mouth. "You think you're the first one to try? I've seen tougher people crumble. You're just a fleeting moment." Their dismissal stung, but instead of shaking her resolve, it solidified it. She could feel the pulse of a grander narrative at play, and if she was to become part of it, she'd better be ready. "Maybe I will," Lily replied, staring them down. "But everyone has their breaking point. This isn't just about me. This is about your pattern. The damage you cause." With each assertion, she deliberately grounded herself in the reality of the situation, summoning every shred of bravery as she stood firm. Officer Hayes, encouraged by her tenacity, positioned himself beside her. "We can talk all day, but it's time for you to face the consequences," he interjected, a note of authority reverberating through his voice. The way the figure's gaze flickered momentarily revealed a crack in their confidence, one Lily was quick to latch onto. The ambient city noise faded as an awareness crept in, a realization that perhaps they were not as untouchable as they believed. The weight of that understanding settled upon her shoulders like an armor. She was no longer just a bystander, she was engaged in a populated narrative of resilience. "Let us take this outside, shall we?" the figure suggested, the swagger of their bravado strained. This was more than an invitation, it was a challenge, and that simple proposition lit a spark within Lily. Outside loomed not just the streets but a greater reckoning. "Lead the way," she said, almost surprised by the calm that accompanied her challenge. Each step felt momentous, heavier than before as she walked in tandem with Officer Hayes, each footfall echoing a newfound strength. Outside, the light of the city buzzed with life, juxtaposing the tension that hummed between them. Lily's heart pounded not in fear but in exhilaration. She could navigate conflict, she could use her voice, and she could catalyze change. But as they reached a more open area, clarity struck, a realization that in this high-stakes game, every move was significant. Her resolve shaped her reality, and she was only just learning how far she could stretch it. "Let us see how far your bravado takes you," she declared, emboldened by the energy surrounding her. It wasn't merely about confronting a figure that had personified her fears, it was about stepping into the light of her own possibility. In that moment, she recognized a profound truth about herself: she was capable of navigating danger, her voice transforming from a whisper into a shout. Each decision she made from here on out would carve pathways in ways she'd previously thought impossible. But then, just as the palpable tension threatened to fracture, the figure's expression shifted once more, revealing a steelier determination. They straightened, revealing a glimpse of something sinister in their composure that made her pulse quicken. "Let us talk about consequences," they murmured, their tone dropping like iron, echoing a silent warning that left her with a chill. What was waiting on the other side could just as well reverse everything she had built. Could she stand firm against what they would unleash? Lily took a deep breath, bracing herself for what she might face next, a confrontation that would either solidify her newfound strength or threaten to dismantle her identity anew. What precarious truths awaited her on this path? The air was thick with tension, and every second stretched out as Lily faced the figure, their words slicing through the chaotic din of the city around them. Her mind raced, teetering on the edge of resolve and uncertainty. What lay ahead could dismantle all her newfound courage, but she refused to back down. The moment called for clarity, and she needed to hold on to that flame of defiance ignited within her. "Consequences," she whispered, turning the term over in her mind. She felt its weight, its implications bending her growing confidence in ways that felt unfamiliar. What did consequences mean when the world had trained her to silence her voice? This realization fueled a stirring within. She could act, she could influence outcomes through her choices. But would that be enough against the powerful force standing before her? Hayes shifted beside her, a subtle reminder of the partnership they had forged in this uncertain dance. He was her anchor in this tumultuous sea. Their bond had deepened through every confrontation, every hesitant step they took together. She was not alone, he was right there, his unwavering presence echoing her own determination. With a quick glance, she found strength in his resolve, though uncertainty flickered behind his eyes. The figure laughed, a low sound that felt like gravel. "You really believe you can change the script? You're playing a game you don't understand." The dismissive scorn in their tone struck a nerve, tightening the coil of her frustration. Beneath their bravado, however, she sensed an underlying fear emerging from their bravado, a vulnerability she had to exploit. "I may not know everything," she started, voice steady despite the tremors raging just beneath her skin, "but I know that real power comes from acknowledging your flaws. Your game may have brought you this far, but every game ends." The vulnerability in her words gave her a newfound strength, a power rising from a place of authenticity rather than bravado. It was a different kind of defense. The figure's face changed, a flicker of anger crossing their features. "You talk big for someone so small," they sneered, but Lily saw the strain in their demeanor. Their mask was slipping. Perhaps they recognized something more profound in her words. Perhaps she had struck a nerve. The realization hit her even harder. They were just as human as she was, layered, complicated, and afraid of being exposed. Lily wasn't just confronting the figure, she was uncovering a truth about her own humanity. In the moments that followed, she sensed a vulnerability blooming within her own struggles. This confrontation was more than an external battle, it was an internal reckoning, an acknowledgement of her right to take up space and command attention. "Do you know what else is true?" she continued, her voice rising, unfurling with conviction. "You've used your facade of power to intimidate, but that facade is not as solid as you think. You can't hide behind it forever." Every assertion engaged deeper understanding, pushing her boundaries while entrenching her willpower. The figure took a half-step back, a flicker of doubt in their eyes. The way their fingers clenched suggested a growing discomfort. Lily caught it, and the exhilaration surged through her. This was her moment, a chance to shift the balance of power. But just as she prepared to press further, the city pulsed with unpredictable energy. Sirens wailed in the distance, and the rumble of impending chaos washed over them. The figure narrowed their eyes, a flash of calculation crossing their face. The stakes heightened, it wasn't just about her confrontation anymore. Lily felt the gravity of the moment settle around her like a cloak. She had to seize the initiative. "Are you ready to finally face the truth?" she demanded, stepping closer as a kismet of resolve surged within her. Yet as urgency built around them, the figure's smile twisted back, darker and more sinister, and Lily realized she had just tapped into something far deeper than she had anticipated. "Truth?" the figure replied with a laugh that dripped with malice. "It's all about perspective, and you may not like what you see." In that pivotal moment, as the city thrummed beneath them, she could feel the balance shifting, but it was unclear what the consequences would really be. What hidden truths lay beneath the surface, and how far was she willing to go to unearth not just the figure's, but her own? The world around Lily felt as if it were on a knife's edge, suspended between the confrontation of truth and the chaotic darkness that sought to snuff it out. She stood firm, tethered to the conviction flooding through her veins, bracing for whatever revelations awaited her. "Why don't you tell me your truth?" Lily challenged, unwavering. Clarity surged in her spirit. She wasn't merely confronting a frightening figure anymore, but engaging in a fundamental battle of perspectives, a clash that could redefine how her small world operated. The figure sneered, but there was a tremor beneath the bravado. "You think your words can dismantle what's already been built? You have no foundation." A thin veil of menace laced their tone, coiling the air with tension that could easily ignite. "Every structure has a weak point," she countered, feeling her voice swell with authority, each syllable etching her resolve deeper. "You're hiding behind a mask of power, thinking that intimidation can mask your insecurities. I'm not scared of you." In that moment, a revelation pierced through her fears. She no longer sought validation, she had grasped the reins of her own identity. It was time to turn inward, to embrace her strengths, and to challenge the shadows that had followed her for far too long. The figure's expression faltered. "It's cute that you think this is over," they hissed, their bravado cracking. The subtle shift in their demeanor hinted that she was starting to penetrate their armor. Whatever power they thrived on was beginning to wane under the weight of her honesty. Lily sensed the shift and pressed on. "Power isn't about intimidation, it's about standing tall enough to acknowledge your vulnerability. It's about integrity." She felt emboldened, as if she were pulling together a tapestry of truth woven by her resolve. Her voice no longer trembled, it emanated strength. Officer Hayes edged closer, observing the figure's wavering fortitude. The dissonance that once characterized their standoff began to dissipate. Lily realized that she wasn't just defending herself, she was dismantling the oppressive grip of fear that had prevented her from recognizing her own empowerment for too long. Her heart raced not with anxiety but anticipation. Would she conquer not just the figure's threats but the very shadows of doubt that had haunted her? The figure faltered, their steely resolve wavering under the weight of her unwavering confidence. "What are you gonna do? Call for help?" They scoffed, yet their bravado felt tenuous, as if they grasped at straws. "Yes," Lily asserted, "but not in the way you think. I don't need anyone to defend me, I can speak for myself." The figure's smirk faded, and Lily felt an electrifying rush knowing that she commanded the air between them. It was liberating to confront this conundrum of bravery, to be beyond the confines of uncertainty. When the sirens grew closer, piercing the tension-filled atmosphere. A rush of adrenaline ignited as a swarm of flashing lights danced beyond the edges of the park. The figure scanned their surroundings, anxiety slicing through their facade. This isn't over, they spat, attempting to rally whatever power remained with their threats. The blood pulsed in her ears, mixing panic with exhilaration, a dance of duality she welcomed for the first time. "It might just be for you," she responded, her tone unwavering. In that moment, something in her shifted. She felt grounded not by the shadows that once loomed over her but by the realization that her voice held truth enough to drown out the noise. Hayes stepped forward, authority radiating from him. "You're revealing everything. Whatever fate awaits, it's yours to face." As the figure's bravado crumbled further, Angela felt the weight of triumph wash over her. The sirens screamed louder, an overture of justice threatening to flood the space she had fought to reclaim. This was more than a confrontation, it was a reclaiming of her narrative, a transformation anchored not just in her actions but in the words she had woven with intent and courage. "Face it all now," she challenged the figure, feeling the pivot of anguish morph into empowerment. The figure scowled, as helplessness shadowed their expression. And just like that, the potency of her journey solidified. The values instilled by her family, the teachings that empowered her resolve, had coalesced into undeniable competence. She felt recognized and active, a true participant in her own story. As the squad cars pulled up, red and blue lights illuminating the scene around them, Lily's spirit soared. Officer Hayes moved seamlessly to assess the figure, revealing the clarity that her truth had heralded. Behind her now lay the path of uncertainty, overtaken by the solid ground she had claimed for herself. The feeling of liberation was profound as she embraced the realization that she could wield her voice like a sword. She wasn't simply a witness, she was a catalyst for change. Standing tall as officers apprehended the figure, she felt an overwhelming sense of accomplishment flood through her. She had never been more certain of herself. This was her victory, the moment she had long awaited to arrive. In that instant, all doubt evaporated. She had confronted the shadows and emerged unscathed, proud, and fulfilled a journey of becoming complete. And with that, Lily had not only defended herself but uncovered the vast reservoir of power within her. Each breath she took felt fuller, her spirit buoyed by this monumental realization, and the horizon shimmered with potential, tinged with the promise of future endeavors. Finally, she bounded away from this encounter no longer just as a little girl but a warrior of truth, ready to carve her path towards whatever lay ahead. Now, this is your moment, too. You need to subscribe immediately to our channel so you don't miss the next exclusive emotional stories that can inspire you. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and aid our community. Every click makes a difference. Comment below with your thoughts and theories about this gripping conclusion. And let us spread the empowerment. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait even one more second to share your support.